I know the first item is Dr. Lincoln. He's tied up in the hall. So do you want to go to the EF tours?
Yeah,
Dr.
I
Stone?
can
I'm
do
sorry, I'm not trying to run this for you. I'm just saying, maybe jump to item 2 and
Well, if
get
Matt's
started.
tied up in the hall, maybe we ought to get some scissors. Just kidding.
These guys said
All right, let's open up the Education Committee meeting, and we'll start off talking about our, well, Dr. Link's not here, so Dr. Stover, when you go to bullet number 2, EF tours.
Thank you very much. Just as a reminder, we are running EF tours beginning this summer. So summer of 2025 is going to be our first trip to the U.S. National Parks. Moving into summer of 2026, we are going to go to Italy. And then we're proposing the subsequent trip, which would be summer of 2027. And the proposal is going to go to Greece. So I have a quick video, take a couple minutes. I'm just going to show you this, which will give you an idea of the trip.
If we look back in history, we will learn and you will grow forward having learned. And how can we do that without travel?
A great trip.
Right.
This is my first time traveling outside the country, and never being on a plane or a cruise. I'm always looking up when I'm at home, looking at the sky, like how would it be to look down from there?
Michael, welcome to Greece. How are you? Welcome to your temporary home. Excellent. My name is Artin. I will be your tour director for the duration of your tour in Greece and the Greek islands. Here, things are different. This mix between old and new and the way that the city has been built, try to embrace all the little changes that you will come across. Our guide this morning is Eva. Kalimera to Eva.
Kalimera. I'm going to be your tour guide. Let's head up to the Acropolis. You're up above Athens, and you can look out and you can see all of everything that is so modern. And then you can look behind you and there's this structure that has been standing there for thousands of years. We are standing in front of Parthenon, one of the masterpieces of ancient Greek architecture. So all these trees with greenish leaves that turn silver to the sunlight, olive trees. So this is the color of the country. It's that olive green, it's the white, and then it's the deep blue of the Aegean and of the skies.
We are heading to the Temple of Apollo in Delphi. Every Greek, every king and queen has been through the gates of Delphi.
Whatever story you look at when you look at Delphi, you can easily find modern parallels. Because if you take technology out of us, we haven't changed. Same human nature, you see. I'm Christina. I'm going to be your guide for Delphi. Are you ready to go and explore the site? You wake up every morning and translate reality around you in a different way. Others more rationally, others more irrationally. And you act and you react and you make choices based on your thoughts, your feelings, your talents. And you shape your future. Delphi doesn't hide things from us. Delphi doesn't reveal things for us. Delphi hints at things. So it's up to you. Are you open to new ideas, or are you just going to stick with your preconceived ideas and notions?
Welcome to the Greek night.
We've seen a lot, we've done a lot, we've walked a lot, we've experienced so much. So we're gonna try to order Greek.
Naidela, souvlaki, chicken. How do you say chicken? Caracol.
To go forward, we have to look back, and that's what I feel here. It makes the world a little smaller. These things you've experienced, you can't feel this when you read it in a book.
To go out on your own and see the world. And it's definitely a very important part of life, and this is the best way to do it.
Taking in everything one at a time. I think that's really the best feeling in the world.
You know, it sort of prompts you to try new things. So, in celebration of our last meal together before we head back home, I would like everybody to raise their glasses and say Yamas. Yamas.
Okay, so that gives you a little bit of an idea of the sites that they're going to visit and some of the experiences that students would have. So right now we're looking at the Grecian Odyssey Tour, which would be a 9-day tour. We request travel dates and we kind of block off some time before that and after that, and they can fluctuate because we are about 2 years out. So right now we're looking at June 24th through July 2nd, again 9 days. Approximate cost per student would be $4,359. Looking at 27 months out, that would be $158 per month. But you know, as we get closer and we actually look to book this, that may fluctuate a little bit. If there are any adults that are interested, that would be $5,089 or $185 a month. As some of you know, we've been doing a lot of fundraisers. Right now we have the first 2 trips that are off and running. We've done some fundraisers. We've done a hoagie sale. We've done reindeer food for the holidays. And right now we have a soup fundraiser going on that we sold 300 containers of soup for. So the students, that money that they raise will go towards their trips. So we've been almost able to offset that monthly cost if students want to fundraise to the maximum extent that they can. Included in these trips are round-trip airfare, in this case 7 nights of hotel with a private bathroom, which is a big deal when you're overseas. Most of the meals, so there's a European breakfast and dinner daily. Transportation while the students are on tour. We do need to also include the cost of the trip, the bus to the airport, and we've been trying to work on some fundraising and some other ideas to offset those costs. There's 6 sightseeing tours, 1 walking tour with entrance costs, and those are all of the places that are listed. So entrance to all of those places are included. There's a full-time tour director and expert local guides that would be part of that. 24-hour emergency services, and a lot more. And just as we are doing with the other overseas trip to Italy, the ratio of chaperones to students is 1 to 10. So that would be the trip that we're looking to propose for 2027, and we're just looking at this point for the board's nod to move forward with that so that we can push this trip out to families in the district. Right now it would just be kind of like a save the date, and then we would probably be looking to start having informational meetings on this probably April or May.
What age students would this?
Say that one more time.
Which students would be included in this?
So any students at the time of the trip that would be like 9th through 12th graders. So we still are not looking at doing any middle school students yet.
We're trying to go backwards.
See
right?
where they fall.
Yeah, so that's like our 10th graders backwards.
Yes.
Current 10th graders, right?
Are you okay?
Oh, yeah, no, I think it's a great idea. I mean, any chance we can get to get kids from this area to see something from outside this area and get some firsthand, I mean, yes, the cost is steep, but you can do some fundraising and save up and maybe one less coffee a week. I think it's great.
Thank you. And I was actually just in Athens this summer, and it's a very unique experience for our students to see the old and the new together. I think they'll really enjoy this. Okay. Thank you very much. Hand the card up to you. Yep. Yeah.
Okay, good evening, everyone. It's nice to see everyone. I'd like to spend some time talking about the draft 25-26 calendar. It's our hope to take this for board approval this upcoming Monday. The format is pretty much the same. You'll see the large blue box that we have each year. Everything from beginning August 11th to 14th is when our new teachers and teachers in along different points within the induction program would be back with us here. So that's our new educator week. And then all the way down, every kind of unique day each month through June is listed on there. You'll see something different this year. So this current school year, we have 3 Act 80 days listed. Administration is proposing we rebrand those, we relabel those to planned virtual instruction days. The reason for that is so we can continue to hit not only 180 instructional days, but we also have enough buffer in the required number of hours per building level. So really what we need to do is hit those minimum threshold of hours. If we can't hit hours, we got to hit the 180 days. Dr. Stoker, if you can kind of scroll down a little bit. Act 80 days are not considered instructional days for students. So if we had them listed as Act 80, it would actually be a total of 177 days, okay? But with the hours, if we call them virtual instructional days, you'll notice that we now list the hours on the calendar. And I need to look down here because I can't see up there. Nope, that's okay. With this proposal, Peters Elementary School would have 922.5 hours. The minimum threshold is 900 hours for Peters. Slatington Elementary School would have 981.67. Minimum threshold is, again, 900 hours for elementary buildings. At the secondary level, the middle school would have 1,043.67 hours. 990 hours is the minimum threshold for secondary buildings, so middle school and high school. And the high school would have 1,149.53 hours. That's with, if we label them virtual instructional days. As you recall, we recently received clarification from the state that FIDs are different than VIDs, virtual instructional days, or some districts call them remote instructional days. For VIDs, virtual instructional days, or remote instructional days, they can either be fully synchronous or fully asynchronous, or I guess potentially a combination thereof. They count as a day, and they count as the hours for that day, even if they're asynchronous. Okay? So what we're proposing is to make sure that if there's, God forbid, Mother Nature forbid, that we ever have some sort of catastrophe again, where we need to shut down schools, and we can't do any of this, we still have enough hours built in, even if we had to go a traditional shutdown for a number of days. This gives us ample buffer for kind of all scenarios, if we call them virtual instructional days. FIDs are codified in the law, and for FIDs to happen, you have to have been approved by the state to do FIDs. We have been approved, but for the next 2 years. So next year and the year after, because they approve them in 3-year increments. I suspect that FIDs are eventually going to go away because of what they've clarified with how school districts can do synchronous or asynchronous instruction virtually. So here, we're looking to label them as VIDs, virtual instructional days. And also on those days, the teachers would be in session, they would be in person, and we would still be doing data dives, data analysis with the teachers. Students would be working asynchronously. Currently in conversation with the association leadership about what that looks like for asynchronous instruction on those days and data analysis all occurring on the same day. So again, swapping out Act 80 days with virtual instructional day label to ensure that we are enough of a buffer no matter what happens, whether we're doing the days or the hours. We can still have dedicated time throughout the school year to do data dives. And those are the major differences for the proposed calendar that's coming up. New to this calendar, also Dr. Stoker, if you scroll down to the bottom again, you'll notice some new, we're also putting on the calendars this year that when the early dismissal days are for the elementary buildings, the middle school, and the high school. And we are also putting on the start and end time for each school day. So it's all kind of one-stop shopping on the calendar, which will be posted on the district website as a PDF. We also have the report card, the end of quarter dates, just like we always do, and then the dates that we aim to release the report cards guide by per building, or by building level. And then the next kind of vertical rectangular box below there is when we identify the kind of emergency closings if we would have to use like actual weather makeup days, which is extremely unlikely with the flexibility that the state has now granted us. But I still think it's pertinent that we list them on the calendar just in case we ever get to that point. So the first weather makeup day would be December 12th, and then we would do the next 5 would be June 11th, 12th, 15th, 16th, 17th, so they would be added on to the end of the year. The 7th day would be February 13th, and the 8th day would be March 20th. If we would ever need to use that many kind of weather makeup days, which the past few years are trending that we would not. Or a look back would be that we do not, and hopefully that's a trend moving forward. So we're trying to cover all scenarios here on this calendar to ensure that we still get our 10 professional development days. What were Act 80 days, we are now proposing to call planned virtual instructional days, where we'll continue to do the data analysis, but we can still count it as a day and hours. And we still have our flex days built in for teachers. And those are the highlights for the proposed calendar coming up. You would see the target last day of school would be June 9th. And then the last day for teachers would be June 10th. If the pattern follows, we would probably be looking at graduation next year to be June 5th, if the pattern follows as it has been. So kind of open that up for questions and comments at this point.
I think it's good. I mean, I know there's some pros and cons, and people feel one way or another about virtual days versus traditional snow days. I personally like not having a couple flexible days and not having to go to school till middle of June. Send it.
Thank you.
I think it's beneficial to see the virtual days up front. It's easier for parents to plan for those, so it makes it nice to have them buffered in there, but then also be able to plan for them. It is a challenge for parents of younger students to kind of deal with those virtual days, but giving that buffer time and availability that it's coming is a little bit easier than even just the snow days when those happen.
My only question is using those Act 80 days, calling them virtual days, and having staff maybe doing 2 things at once. I don't know. I don't know where we stand on that contractually, but as long as we can work that out, I don't have a problem with it.
So contract silent on it. Doesn't mention Act 80 days. having very recent conversations with the union leadership about what does that actually look like. And we would have to dedicate, the segments of time within those days as data analysis, or do we want to do, live streaming office hours like we do on a traditional, like we've done on virtual instruction days related to weather. So those are some conversations that we're having currently. I know, Mrs. Frank, I don't know if you want to share.
I do have a statement. I signed up. I was waiting for it to be my turn. So regarding the removal of the Act 80 days and being replaced with the pre-planned virtual days with the data focus PD, ooh, that was a mouthful. NLEA does have some concerns that need to be considered. Currently, Act 80 days are supposed to focus on student data and improvement methods based on that data, asking teachers to provide virtual assignments that are not paired with teacher availability during the concurrent PD session negates the purpose of these days. Is teacher focus supposed to be on responding to student questions via email, since they're originally in this discussion that Dr. Link and I had, there were no office hours? Or is teacher focus supposed to be on PD sessions? Teachers cannot be tasked with both simultaneously. In addition to the concerns for teacher availability for all of our students, especially our struggling ones, there is also some discussion regarding posting of assignments on our learning management system and gathering the attendance and grading procedures for these virtual days, as they are drastically different than in-person days. The instructional aspects of these virtual days are also concerned because asynchronous virtual assignments do not have the same impact on student instruction, and often students cannot complete these assignments with fidelity, if at all. Since many of our educators also live in the district and have their children attend, there's the question on whether this move is community-minded and whether we have ample feedback on this decision.
Thank you, Mrs. Frank. And I would say, similar to previous virtual instructional days, students have up to 3 days to submit their assignments afterwards. So if they do need educator support, that would be available upon the returning days. To Mrs. Frank's point, that initially, when I presented this to the association, we were not looking at having live streaming office hours. She raised a valid point, and I would really like to dig into that conversation now about including live streaming office hours on these days. And I do not believe it's simultaneous work, and I'm going to explain that by saying within that, let's call it, it's not an 8-hour day, but just for simple math, let's call it 8 hours. If we were to do, typically office hours are like an hour. If we were to do, say, 6 hours of data analysis work, an hour for lunch, and then an hour for office hours, that would be segmented and sequenced throughout that day. So it's not simultaneous work, it's sequenced throughout the day of what the kind of expectations for how the time within that day is utilized. So I think there's a conversation that needs to continue there for what the educator responsibility is. By educator, I mean faculty and administration during these planned virtual days. I think my recommendation is that this is a good solution to make sure that we keep our school year length how it has traditionally been, and that we don't have to start making decisions about are we shortening holidays or adding days to the end of the school year. But I do acknowledge that we should have further conversation about kind of teacher and administrative expectation during those days.
You had signed up to have conversation. I'm assuming you've
That was
taken
it.
care of that? Yeah, okay, thank you. All right.
So with that being said, if we're looking for approval, when are you looking for approval of the calendar, next board meeting?
Yes.
Would those conversations take place between now and then, so we could, or are we gonna discuss it at the next board meeting and go from there?
I'm available between now and then if union leadership is available between now and then.
Well, just so I know where the direction's going.
Sure.
You know, I think that's fair to the board, and we only have 4 board members here tonight, so,
Yeah.
you know, there might be a lot of questions going forward. But I agree, I think it's, number one, it's a great use of technology, that's what we invested in. You know, when our learning management system has the capabilities of posting assignments, and I mean, that was the whole idea of going that route, which I am definitely a proponent of that. I do like the fact that it does build in some time in case something bad does happen. And I know you're not allowed to say this anymore, but you're killing two birds with one stone. So that's kind of like what I'm looking at, where, you know, students are still getting instruction, it counts as the day, but we're still doing the ever important task, I believe, of looking at our data and where we're headed, and then creating, you know, whatever remediation that's going to be needed going forward. So I'm interested in that conversation to see where we come.
Sure. I would note that some of the board members who aren't present, Bob, have contacted me and said they'll be watching the, you know.
Oh, that's fine. I'm not saying anything bad about that.
No,
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying
Okay.
that they will get the information.
Okay, that's
I
fine.
think. Yeah.
Well, that's good.
They're not gonna come in blind next Monday and.
Okay.
So it's administration's intent to put this on the calendar, or on the agenda for Monday. We'll engage in those conversations, and then ultimately the school board will have to make a decision as to whether they want to approve the calendar this upcoming Monday or table it again, for reasons that they identify.
Put it on as a separate item if you could, so you don't have to go through dividing the question
Yep.
and all that other stuff.
I can absolutely arrange the agenda like that.
Dr. Lake, one question. The in-service days, are those the same number that we normally had? Same, less, more?
It's 10.
So it's still the same?
Yes.
And then we would have normally had, so we would normally have had those 10.
Yep.
Plus 3 in the past Act 80 days, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Those are contractual. The 10 in-service days are contractual.
Okay, thank you for clarification.
Good question. Okay, so more to come on the 25-26 school year calendar. I appreciate the conversation. Mrs. Frank, I appreciate the conversation as well. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Donna?
Okay, so good evening, everyone. In an effort to better assist our students with dyslexia, the district implemented the Connections OG in 3D at Slatington Elementary. We had one teacher trained, and they are implementing that with a few students. However, there are a lot more students that could benefit from that program. The student is excelling, likes the program, and it really does. It's obviously it's research based, but it goes to the Orton Gillingham and the science of reading. Another program that you might hear sometimes is Wilson. Wilson is also another very prestigious program, I guess you would say, but it's also 3 times the expense of OG and has the same basic function. So this program is also accredited by the International Dyslexia Association. What we would like to do is extend this program to Peters Elementary and to Slatington Elementary's special ed at Slatington, or at Peters Elementary, and their reading specialist, one of the reading specialists at Peters, as well as one of the reading specialists here at Slatington Elementary, so that not only special education students could benefit from the program, but also students with dyslexia that are in the regular education program. With that said, the total cost would be $16,528. It would be funded through this year's budget, and it would be split. So Peters Elementary would actually pay 25%, Slatington Elementary would pay 25%, and I'm planning on having both teachers out of Peters trained, so that would be my 50% out of the special education budget. Does anybody have any questions about the program, about the implementation expansion?
Can you identify, what do we have today?
So this is a second program, let's say. So there is Reading Mastery over at Peters Elementary. Then over here we have Read 180 and System 44 you would have heard throughout the years. This one is specifically targeting students with dyslexia and that phonemic awareness.
So those same students wouldn't have all of these programs? We're
No,
adding
no,
another
this is in
program?
addition to, so this would be
So are we gonna
another
get rid of
option.
something?
It would be another option, I'm sorry.
Will we get rid of something?
No, no. because this is specifically for students with dyslexia.
But this is an instead of, not addition to, is that correct, or?
It's not instead of. So some students learn better through this type of learning, and then other students learn better through that Read 180 System 44 avenue. Okay, so this would be an option for those students that specifically have dyslexia and have a difficult time learning that phonemic awareness.
Is this a one-time fee or is this a continual?
No, this is
fee?
a one-time fee. The teacher will be trained. Then there are the materials which are also included in there. So we would have 4 teachers trained, total 5, okay? But I'm asking for 4 now, and then all the materials that go with the program.
And this is gonna be funded how?
25% Peters Elementary, 25% Slatington Elementary, and then 50% special education.
So that comes out of the principal's budget?
Correct. They actually came, Mr. Briner came to me after we started with the one teacher in Slatington Elementary.
Because I know last year we increased the principal's budget so they could do things in their buildings, and now we're taking more things away.
And this is a request coming from the building.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're okay with taking out of your individual building budget to do this?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I can't argue with that.
Okay, so we can take that to the, thank you. Okay, the last item that we have on the Education Committee agenda this evening is the Merlin grant. Mr. Pine is unable to be here with us this evening, so I do have some of his sentiments to share with you. So I'm just going to click on this first and show you what Merlin is. Where's the about? So you can access this website and kind of search around. So over the past several months, for the board members, Mr. Pine has been mentioning in his weekly updates that we have been researching an educational technology tool called Merlin. Merlin provides teachers with a handheld AI-powered remote that allows them to control their workstation through voice commands, untethering them from the workstation while seamlessly integrating technology into their instruction. We learned about this opportunity through some research that Ms. Dunham was doing on a related problem, and we later learned that the company was working directly with the state of Pennsylvania to provide these to interested schools for 5 years at no cost. So early this fall, we engaged in a couple of volunteer teachers in a field test of the product, so Ms. Yordi and Mrs. Bariana. And then after field testing it with a couple of teachers and getting positive feedback, Mr. Pine held a meeting with the company and confirmed the details of the grant. So at the conclusion, there's no further obligation if we don't want to move forward. So they will send us 100 of these Merlin remotes and provide access to the software for 5 years, as well as ongoing professional development and support. So if approved, we'd begin planning for deployment with volunteer cohorts of teachers and then determining further scaling from there. So I believe he's looking to move forward with this grant opportunity, knowing that there's no commitment necessarily after 5 years.
There is no commitment after 5 years.
Yes, yes, no commitment after 5 years. And it's free for the 5 years.
Can't argue with that.
Will there have to be any policy updates being AI related and anything in that realm of updates to technology with AI?
So we have an AI policy. So we do, go ahead, I don't want to cut you off. Go ahead.
You got it. You're good.
Yeah, okay. So we have an AI policy that we developed prior to us doing anything with AI. So this policy would cover that as well.
I just want to say I have a really good assistant superintendent.
I just love policy.
Thank you.
All right.
So I think I'm hearing consensus that 5-year, no cost to the district, and then make a decision near the end of the 5th year.
Yes.
Will the 100 units supply all our teachers? All the classrooms, all the need, or
So I think we have 130-ish teachers, Sherry, is that correct? Across all the
Right now, we have
buildings?
126.
126.
So we're the 26 not lucky enough to get the AI unit. I'm just, how is that gonna be decided,
Sure.
put out there?
So I don't know the answer to that. So if we get 100 of them, there may be opportunities to share them. There may be people that don't necessarily need them for their classrooms or want them for their classrooms, but we'll have 100 to kind of play around with and give everybody who wants an opportunity the chance to use them.
Mrs. Moltoris, does that 126 include school counselors and
Yep.
certified school nurses?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
There's a
there
couple.
would be, about 8 or so off of that.
It does not include our 4 permanent subs though. So I don't know where they would fall in the
Gotcha.
realm of that. So it's either 126 or 130. Depending on the
Okay, so that'll be on the board agenda for approval for that grant opportunity. I think that's all.
Anything else for education committee meeting? All right, I see none, we'll close and we'll go to Dr. Stoker's favorite one, policy committee.
I'll add those other comments on next. All right, here we go.
Sorry. Get ready.
All right, so the policies that we have this agenda and then also coming up in May, before we jump into them, I just want to make an announcement that we had Title IX regulations which were passed in 2020. And then we had new Title IX regulations which were passed in 2024, but we heard that there was some pushback and some things were going to be happening, so we kind of delayed what we were doing with those. And then when our new president took office in 2025, we reverted to the 2020 regulations. So just understand that landscape, that we are passing policy, going back and redoing policy, and then there's some other kind of tweaks they're making to policy around that same time. So several of the policies, I think there were maybe 5 of them that I had proposed changes coming forward. Just as last week we were going to send them out, we ended up having to make changes because they just released, PSBA just released their recommendations for the end of February for those changes that are influenced by Title IX and where we stand with regard to that regulation. So with that said, we'll kind of jump into these. Some of them are related to Title IX, not all of them. All right, so first policy is policy 005, which is organization. Ooh, that's tiny. Okay, this policy was last updated in 2019. Since then, it's been updated to reflect decision in the Montemoro versus Jim Thorpe School District. There was a legal case that said members of the school board cannot be removed without notice and reason. So you're going to see this policy which reflects those changes. At the top of this, they're renaming board members as school directors, so you'll see that change throughout the policy. At the very bottom of this policy is what I just talked about with regard to that case. So this references that court case and shows that removal from the school board has to have the opportunity for a hearing, and you have to have notice, and you have to have the reason why. More changes here. To match PSBA based on the terms of a contract or applicable law. So these are appointments to anyone else besides a school board member. So if we have a solicitor, if there are other people that the board appoints, they have to be removed or appointed within the terms of their contract and law. Some of these are just minor changes. The word approve to appoint, shall to may. And then at the very bottom, all of our policies that or committees that we have, when we came to this this calendar year, some of those committees were changed. Some of them were split into 2 committees. So what we did is we just restated what those committees are and gave a little blurb about what all of those committees, the purpose of them are. So that's been updated here. And then this policy overall is recommended to assist with implementing consistent standards for organization of meetings. So any questions on that policy? Do we have the ability from the board members present to move that for first reading to the board meeting on Monday night?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next policy is policy 121, which is field trips. So this policy was last updated in 1997, so it's quite old. PSBA's newest policy is actually from 2014. They are currently in the process of updating that as well, but since we will be running field trips across the United States, abroad, we wanted to make sure that we had a solid field trip policy in place, and also as it relates to sports as well. So number 4, if we scroll down, the purpose of this was that it was updated to the newest PSBA language for number 4. On the bottom, the definition of field trip has been updated to be what it was in 2014. Under authority, this is who has the authority to approve field trips and how that process works. Under delegation of responsibilities, this says that we will develop additional guidelines that are more specific than the policy and in regard to field trips. There are things in here for field trips that go overseas, field trips that go overnight. There's, I think, 12 different ARs that we can actually approve as part of the field trip policy. So those are things that we're looking at with various administrators that they would impact. And then the last section of this is administration of medicines for any of the field trips and how that works. And then this is a recommended policy by PSBA. Any questions on this? Do we have the ability of the board members present to move this to Monday night for a first reading?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next one is pregnant, parenting, and married students. So this policy was last updated in 1997 as well. It was changed to the 2024 recs, and then last week, as I said, we got the 2025 ones, and we had to change some more things in here. So under purpose, essentially this just says that there can be no discrimination based upon a student who is married, pregnant, or experiencing pregnant-like or actual parenthood circumstances. The definition of pregnancy was updated. Under authority, this essentially says that students who have any of these conditions would still have the same access, equal access as students who don't. At the bottom, that list of options are now, instead of having standards of these are things that we will provide, there's almost like a list of menu options of what students can select from. And then under delegation of responsibility, this just says again that we will create ARs in relation to these things. And so Title IX content was all removed at the bottom. And this policy is recommended for legal liability purposes. Any questions on that? All right, do we have the ability of the board members present to move this for first reading next Monday?
Yes.
Should have changed since I was here 29 years ago, 59 years ago.
All right, next one is hazing. This policy was last updated in 2022. The recommendation here is that this was updated for those changes we just discussed as part of the Title IX. So instead of it being titled Title IX, Sexual Harassment and Other Discrimination, it's been reduced to just discrimination/harassment. And you can see discrimination or harassment has been added to that paragraph. You've probably seen this in maybe the past 2 meetings or so that we've had local police or local law enforcement. It's just law enforcement now, so you'll see those changes throughout. So instead of talking about police, you'll see law enforcement or law enforcement entities. Safe school reporting is now school safety and security incident reporting. That's now reported to the PA Department of Education. So the local police department has changed, the place we report, the report and what it's called has changed, and then the department has changed. So you'll see that those 3 changes throughout. And I believe that's it for this one. So this is a mandated policy through school code. Any questions on that one? Do we have the ability of the board members present to move that policy for first reading to the board on Monday?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next policy is bullying and cyberbullying. So this policy was last updated in 2022. Again, there's just some minor changes because we just recently updated that. You'll see the same changes here with regard to discrimination and harassment, just like you saw in the last one. And then incident reporting, again, where to report has changed. And the very bottom, we've just changed this to be more broad. It said, depending upon the severity of the particular situation, the building principal may also take appropriate steps to ensure student safety. We just changed that generally to administration, as it can be any administrator in the district. Okay, any questions on that? I will just add that annually we update our bullying guidelines as well. So we typically bring those back in the spring and prepare those so that they're ready to go for the fall and the start of the next school year. So you'll be seeing those as well. But for right now, we're just looking at this policy for bullying and cyberbullying. Do we have the ability to move this forward for Monday night for first reading?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. All right, the next one is employment, contract, and board resolution. So this policy was last updated in 2020. It's been updated to include the definition of resignation and guidelines. They were previously in the administrative regulation. PSBA is recommending that we take those guidelines and make them part of the board policy at this point. Under guidelines, you'll see previously during the pandemic, this was updated and we had in times of pandemic. We have internally updated that now to be in times of extended remote or virtual instruction, which Dr. Link spoke earlier about within our calendar. Further down, you'll see information on resignations. This is in accordance with school code, which says that professional employees, when they resign, have to give at least 60 days notice. Non-certified or support staff have to give at least 2 weeks of notice. So that's updated for those guidelines. Also on this page would be for, this was updated for the superintendent or assistant superintendent resignations. And then this policy is recommended for legal liability. Any questions on that?
Does policy override contracts or like the negotiated contracts? So I look in here, and maybe I'm misunderstanding what this means, but the probationary period, there's probationary period times within contracts there, right? Or am I incorrect on that?
Some contracts, like support
right?
staff contracts, will have a 60-day probationary period. The professional staff contract does not have a 60-day probationary period. So if an employee, if the district is going to not continue someone after 60 days, we would do that through the contract language. If they don't meet expectations.
I'm sorry, say that one. It goes back to contract language? Is that what you said?
For that, it will,
okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Ideally, if an employee does resign, they give us either the 60-day notice or the 2-week notice.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions on that policy? Okay, do we have the ability to move that one forward for first reading at the school board meeting on Monday?
Yes.
Okay. All right, next policy is, oh no, educator misconduct. I'm losing my battery. Can you plug me in? No, thank you. Okay. So this policy was last updated in 2020. And the only thing that you're going to see is what we saw in the last two policies, which is the Title IX updated to discrimination and harassment. And you'll see those changes based on the changes within Title IX. So this policy is recommended for legal liability reasons. Any questions on that? We have the ability to move that one forward for a first reading in next Monday.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, next one is personal necessity leave. So this policy was last updated in 2016. The language that you see there in green, in the legal citations were added to address situations in which paid, unpaid, or absences might be part of accommodations under certain laws. So that's the only change that we have to that policy. Okay. This policy is recommended for legal liability purposes. Any questions on that? Do we have the ability to move that one forward for Monday night?
Yes.
Okay. Oops. All right, next one is uncompensated leave, 339. So this policy was last updated in 2023. It was updated for the same reasons as the last policy that we just looked at, as well as the additional of uncompensated leave rules and internal practices. So you'll see in here that the superintendent or designee shall notify the board of any of all uncompensated leave provided as a reasonable accommodation in accordance with applicable law and regulations. A little bit lower, it says that requests for uncompensated leave have to be made to the superintendent or designee in writing in advance of the start date. And those are the only changes that we have to that policy. This policy is recommended for legal liability purposes. Any questions on that? Okay. Do we have the ability to move that one forward for Monday night?
Yes.
Alrighty. Next one is opioid antagonist. This policy was last updated in 2016. Sorry, let me click on that. The title has changed. It was formerly naloxone. That was the name of the actual medication that's administered. And because the statute now uses opioid antagonist instead of the name of the medication, the policy name changed. So you'll see under definitions, naloxone is no longer there, but opioid antagonist is added in there. Under delegation of responsibility, there's been some minor revisions here for positions, administration of it, or who maintains or stocks the medication. So you'll see those responsibilities under delegation of responsibility. Under guidelines, again, it's really just the change from naloxone to an opioid antagonist throughout that whole bottom section. Same thing all through here. And then these are the changes as far as local police department is now law enforcement agency. You'll see the changes from the naloxone to opioid antagonist again. So those are the only changes to that policy. Any questions on that? This one is for legal liability reasons.
I have a big question. How come sometimes when you change it, you put the new word second, and other times you put the new word first?
It just happens that way, yeah. We could do it more consistently. Any other questions?
Any other relevant questions?
Do we have the ability to move this one forward for first reading at the board meeting?
Yes.
All right. And the last one for this evening. Maintaining professional adult student boundaries. This was last updated in 2020. There are some minor changes in the list for maintaining appropriate boundaries. So here are some of the things that this policy covers. So they added just some words here and there to be more specific. So this is one in the case of like if we had a physical therapist that was addressing a student and had to give some sort of massage, it would be legitimately administered from an athletic trainer or someone of that nature. 15 was updated to telling a student personal secrets, or sharing personal secrets with a student, or asking students to keep any conversation, gift, or activity a secret. And then this paragraph, adults shall not follow or send, accept requests for current students to be friends or connections on personal social networking sites. The she or he has been changed to they. Under this section, this is the Title IX related information that's been updated like we talked about earlier. This is the law, and that's where it changed the name of the law. And again, discrimination/harassment, and took out the Title IX sexual harassment part. So this is a recommended policy for the district. Any questions on this one?
How do you police the not follow or send requests?
We do not actively police employees' personal social media accounts.
Thank you.
If we get reports,
Different story.
then we have to investigate, but we do not actively police them.
Thank you.
Any questions on the policy? Any other questions? All right. Can we move that one to Monday night for a first reading?
Yes.
Okay. Those are the policies for this evening.
I don't see anything else listed. Thank you for taking us through that. Anything else for policy committee? Not, I'll go ahead and close policy committee and.
I believe somebody had checked off.
Oh, I'm sorry.
For a comment.
Sorry, friends.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is, yeah, he checked two of them, I'm sorry, I missed the other one. I apologize.
With the other one.
With ECC?
Yeah.
The extracurricular? Okay, good. Thank you.
Sounds good. No
Do
other.
you want to comment at all? I mean, no, okay.
Because I saw the text here, I didn't understand it.
Yeah, no, we just weren't sure where it would best fit, but as things have moved along, it seems to best fit with ECC.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Sounds good. No other friends or comments? Sorry. All right, I'll go ahead and close policy and turn it over to Mr. Chrisman for technology.
All right, I guess we'll open up technology, and Mr. Hill, all you.
Okay, good evening, everybody. The only thing I have on the agenda tonight is some information on our phone system. Phone system is starting to age a little bit. It was installed in 2015, so it is 10 years old. Typical lifespan of a phone system is usually about, I would say, 10 to 15 years for a system like we have. So we were notified by our vendor that the CPU in our phone system, we have what's called the CP10, is currently going to be at the end of life and support at the end of this year. Okay, so December 31st of 2025. We can get more life out of this system if we upgrade from a CP10 to a CP20 processor. The quote we received from our vendor was $2,936.69. I do have money on my budget to pay for that, and that will increase the end of life until March 31st of 2030. So by spending that close to $3,000, we will get another 4 to 5 years of life out of our phone system. So I recommend that we do that upgrade. And from there, what we are going to do, we're going to need a new phone system by the summer of 2029, so we can have a new system installed before we run out of support. So our jobs over the next couple of years is we will start looking to evaluate some phone system options, and over the next few years, that's something that'll be discussed here at the Technology Committee. So I guess the only question I have for the board is that okay that I spend that money and increase the life of our phone system? Is everybody okay with that? Anybody have any questions?
Did that change anything? I know you had mentioned something about the copper.
That was something
Is that
different.
different?
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
that doesn't affect this. Yeah, that was for the emergency lines. I had that in one of the board updates recently.
Okay, I
Yes,
just
yeah.
Didn't know if they were connected at
Yeah,
all.
no, I mean, it is connected to our phone system, but that was a different problem, so, yeah.
Thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
In 2029, when we have to upgrade, what kind of
Phone system are we looking at?
Yeah.
We're most likely, right now, the big thing is cloud systems, so we've been looking at going like an IP phone system and most likely a cloud-based system. There is a possibility, there is one system that we're talking to our vendor about that is something that we could run here, like it's sort of like a cloud system, but we could run it locally on our VMware. So that's really what we have to evaluate over the next couple of years to see which is the better solution. If you go cloud system, what it does is it lowers your initial costs, because phone systems are pretty expensive, so it could lower our initial costs, but then you're tied into paying a licensing fee for your, like the number, usually they number by the number of users, number of phones that you have, and that'll be an ongoing cost on a monthly basis. If we go with the in-house system, it might be a little higher cost, but you could potentially save in the long run. So that's really what we have to evaluate over the next few years. But most likely, the way things are heading, most of them are cloud-based now. So that's what we'd be looking at.
Is there any cybersecurity concerns if it goes cloud-based or not for a phone system?
Well, yeah, there are some concerns, but if we go with a cloud-based, we would still keep the like we have what we call a SIP trunk line now. We would still keep that in place, and there's security measures in there already that we have. But yeah, there are some security measures we'd have to take to do that. So that's always a concern. Yes. Any other questions? No? If not, that's all I have.
All right.
Thank you.
That's all you have. I guess we will shut
You're
down.
on a roll, Mr. Crispin.
Shut
Keep
down
going.
technology. Yeah, I guess I'm opening up buildings and grounds, and Mr. Mann, I guess that's you, huh?
Good evening, everyone. If you remember from the board updates a couple of weeks ago, there was a salt shortage in Pennsylvania. Well, pretty much everyone could probably put their shovels away now because we got all the salt we ordered. So that means we're not going to have any more storms, hopefully. Knock on wood. But as you can see in my update, we had ordered, once I had notification that there was a salt shortage, we requested a load, 24 tons of salt to be delivered. It was delivered February 24th. Also along with that, we had put in for 6 skids of bagged salt to carry us over in case we ran out of bulk salt, which was delivered the week after I had ordered it. So now that we're full on salt, like I said, we won't get any more storms. Hopefully. Next on my agenda.
If I can, Mr. Mann, I'd just like to comment on, I mean, you're all aware that we were just battered by these kind of nuisance ice storms almost on a weekly basis. I really want to compliment our buildings and grounds employees. They did everything they can to keep up with that, make sure that our sidewalks and parking lots were manageable for the students and employees. It was a challenge. Some of them were very challenging. So I just want to compliment the work that they put into it under Mr. Mann's leadership.
Thank you. Next on my agenda is we had 2 fuel deliveries this month, which means we'll have 2 left. We're actually in contract for 8 fuel deliveries, and we're at 6. So we should be good to fulfill our contract with KPN and our fuel. Next is the Javelin repair. So 2 years ago, I believe, we started trying to repair the Javelin run. We had purchased a do-it-yourself repair kit, It lasted all of about one season. It didn't last very long. The javelin, the end of the javelin really gets beat up. So we started looking for the best price on to have actually someone come out and professionally repair it for us. This would come out of my building repair fund, so it's not something that I'm asking the board for money on top of. It's going to come out of my repair fund. So the price that I would need to be approved is the $6,000. So right now I'm looking for the board to put that on Monday's agenda for approval.
Estimated life for this repair?
I'm being told about 5 to 6 years, but I believe before that, the track itself in the stadium would probably be up for repair. So
That's why I was
Mr.
asking.
Geist and myself are kind of hoping that we could lump everything together then. So that's why right now we're just looking for repair to take us along.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No? All right, thank you. And last, so I had a proposal come to me from Otis Elevator. Otis Elevator is the company that services and inspects the elevators in the district office as well as Slatington Elementary. In that, they pretty much responded to me saying that our elevators are getting older. So they had a proposal for me for $2,800 to do a deep preventive maintenance of the elevator over at Slatington Elementary. As far as I know in the records that I've seen, they haven't had this done. This way, once they do that, they can kind of come back to me and say, and tell me exact parts that are seeing more wear, so then I could budget if there are parts that need to be repaired and how much time we have to repair them. So again, this would come out of my building repair fund. So again, I'm looking to the board members for approval to put it on Monday's agenda. Any questions about it first?
This is only Slatington?
This would only be Slatington. Slatington's older than the district office, because remember, we had it on to Slatington with the district office. So I'm thinking that probably within the next year or two, we'll get the same thing for the district office. Yeah. So that's just to do Slatington.
So what about Peters and the high school and the
So now
others?
those are different companies. Yeah, so Slatington and the district office, they're covered by Otis.
Okay.
The high school is Reading Elevator, and Peters has slipped my mind.
So
But
are
each
those
one-
being preventative maintenance? I guess
Yes.
my question, if we're doing one, why are we just doing this one?
Because this is the only one that I got a proposal from Otis for. The other ones I have to look into to get the same thing done. I don't know if those other companies offer anything like this.
Okay.
If they do, then I'll ask for a proposal from them. But Otis was the first one to approach me on it, and then that's kind of what got my head turning, saying, well, okay, let's start with this one, and then I can see what the other ones look like.
Sounds good, thank you.
And I believe that's it. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Before we close out, anything
Since you
else?
have the next one, I'll take this one. How's that? Then you can have the last one. We'll split it up.
Go ahead. Take it.
It's a big responsibility, I know, but so.
Yeah, take it.
Finance Committee, Ms. Fink.
Good evening. I just have 3 very quick updates from food service. I'm currently looking into different options for summer food service programs. There's just different, types of programs that you can apply for when it comes to summer specifically. That would just be dependent upon what we decide for the camps that will be held here over the summer. So more to come at our next meeting regarding that. Just reminding everybody that through the end of March to round up at the register if you shop at Giant to help support our Backpack Buddies program. And lastly, today was our kickoff day for the Second Chance Breakfast program at Slatington Elementary. In the past, Slatington served out of their just shy of 500 students, about 120 to 140 breakfasts each day. So today it was 120 at our regular breakfast service, but then We had an additional 87 meals served on our carts in the hallways for our second chance breakfast, which was served between the time frame of 9:10 and 9:55. So just like about an hour, hour and a half later than our traditional service. So we're happy with that turnout, and things for the most part went smoothly. So we're gonna hopefully continue that. And that is pretty much all I had for tonight.
I think that's a really good participation
Yeah.
rate for the
Yeah.
first day.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
good job.
One of the concerns you had was lunch going to be affected. Did you see any decline in lunch numbers today, or still
I
comparable?
actually didn't run my lunch numbers, so I can't like say that today quite yet, but I can definitely report on that
Perfect.
next time, yeah.
Thank you. Just curious. I know that was
Yeah,
one of the
yep.
concerns about shifting to that second. Just
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully not, but we will see.
If you let me know, I can put it in
Yeah.
the Friday update.
Thank you.
Based off of how these kids eat at home, I don't think it will.
I don't think so.
Speaking from experience, Chad.
Yes?
That's it. Any questions for Ms. Fink? Anyone? No? If not, I guess, Ms. Malatoris, you're on.
Thank you. So I have two things on my agenda. Again, I'm going to be pretty quick too. The first one is our Pennsylvania Trust GASB 75 Validation and Related Services Agreement. So this has to do with, I'm going to use an acronym here called OPEB. OPEB is our Other Post-Employment Benefits. So GASB 75, prior to GASB 75, you only needed to report your OPEB benefits after they were actually paid out. Since GASB 74 or 75, the standard aimed at giving a clearer picture of the financial stability of the district. And it takes those OPEB obligations and says, what are those current values and what would we currently have to pay out on our OPEB obligations if everybody would retire at one point in time. So, and be paid out for sick days, paid out for the retirement. So it's a clearer picture to anybody who's looking at our financial statements that these are our financial obligations that are future and forthcoming, but this is where we have to show to the public on what our current OPEB outstanding balance is. So we have a company that does that for us. It's called Pennsylvania Trust. They work with Conrad Siegel, and they perform an actuarial valuation of those OPEB costs for the district. Our auditors need that every year. This is a 2-year plan. It's up this year, so I need a board approval in order for us to again contract with Pennsylvania Trust and Conrad Siegel in order to do our OPEB for GASB 75 filing. So it's basically, like I said, it's the actuarial numbers that we need in order to complete our end of year financial audit.
Mrs. Maltors, does this affect the district's Moody rating?
No.
There's no connection?
No.
Okay.
No. I mean, it affects the financial statement, so the financial statement has an overall effect on our financial picture, but it doesn't affect Moody's in the right, well, like if we don't do this, we'll be in trouble by Moody's or anything along those lines.
Thank you.
I'm assuming there's a cost.
Yes, so the cost is there. Simple, it's either a simple plan, an average plan, or a complex plan. Last year we were the simple plan, and that is the cost over a 2-year period. So it is $51,250 for 2 years, and that is for our medium-sized group, which is 200 to 500 employees.
So we really will be in that simple.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
And if that's it, I would then ask for approval to move that to the board agenda Monday evening for approval.
Okay.
Okay. And then the last thing I have is Preferred EAP. Preferred EAP is our employee assistance program. So that we approve every year on our board agenda. It is $6.15 per employee that we pay. And then over and above, if anybody uses those services, we get charged a flat $100 consulting fee for their services. Employees can go, I believe it's 5 times to see somebody. And at that point in time, if they decide they want to continue on seeing them, then they refer them to somebody that would take our health insurance provider, and then everything would fall underneath our health plan. But it's our basic employees assistance program for families who are going through, needs and things, mental health issues, that kind of stuff. And it could be alcohol, it can be drugs, it could be mental health, it could be just honestly marriage counseling or issues with children, just not knowing how to manage children and stuff. So it's a wealth of knowledge that is available for our staff who might be struggling and might need a little bit of help outside of the day. So if everybody's in agreement, I'm asking for approval to put that back on the board agenda for approval again.
Is that also part of the current contract, or is that just an extra add-on?
That's an extra benefit that we give them. It's not part of any agreement. It's just what we do good for doing for our people, honestly.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Is that because we like our teachers because they're so nice to us and they're agreeable?
Yes.
Is that why we do that?
Yes. Very much so. Health and well-being is what you want for all of your employees to keep them happy and healthy. So that's what we look to do. All right, if nobody has any questions for that'll go on the board agenda.
Would you just give a quick budget update on when we're going to be doing what this year?
Sure. So April, we will give our first, I'm still finishing up, everybody had to give me their stuff to me Friday. So I haven't had a chance to put all of our budgets together yet. I will look for initial preliminary vote in April, because if we wait until May to do it, we won't have the 30-day rest till we get to June. So this way we can approve it in April as a preliminary, we'll have May and June to look at it, and then we can approve it as a final at that June board meeting. So
It
And we
can
won't
be
have to call a
changed
special.
after April.
Pardon?
It can be changed.
It can be changed after April, correct.
So we won't have to call a special meeting.
We will
then
not need to
approve the
call a
budget.
special meeting if we do the preliminary in April, that is correct. Yep,
Thank
so
you.
that's what I'm shooting for.
When do we need to approve we won't go over the certain rate?
We already did that already, that
Oh, did
happened
we?
in December.
Ugh, where was I?
That's okay.
I have no more dumb questions. I'm finished.
Sometimers, huh?
That's all I have. Thank you very much.
So I guess, Mr. Kern, you're up, and I would call your attention to our 3 people on the list who would like to make a
Sure.
comment on your committee.
All right, and we'll open up the extra and co-curricular committee meeting. I don't know who's taking the lead on.
I will work through this. Mr. Geis is wrapping up the winter sports season awards. He said he's going to try to be here by 7. We were not anticipating that we would move this quickly this evening.
Okay.
So I will pinch hit, no pun intended. First one is middle school soccer program updates. So the Colonial League has changed what the sub-varsity structure looks like for soccer for the upcoming school year. So the 25-26 school year, this would not affect this spring season. Spring middle school co-ed soccer is moving to the fall as separate boys and girls junior high soccer. So the co-ed component is going to go away. It would be a dedicated boys team and a dedicated girls team. So what does that mean for us? We would have to abolish the middle school co-ed soccer coach position, I should say position, for the 25-26 school year, but then we would actually have to add a boys junior high soccer coach and a girls junior high soccer coach beginning the 25-26 school year, and they would both continue to run in the spring. Current stipends for those positions, we're looking at $3,168. Administration is recommending that we do sunset that co-ed position and then really add 1 additional coaching position to the entire budget.
I think you misspoke. I think they're running in fall, not in spring.
Oh, I'm sorry, fall.
Spring.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're moving to fall.
My fault, thank you for catching that.
It'll fall next year.
Yep. And then, so really it would be 1 additional coaching position for junior high soccer to the overall number of coaches that are in, I believe it's Schedule E of the contract. Mr. Assault.
Junior high, does it mean 7, 8, and 9 then?
I always confuse this. I believe junior high would be middle school up through 9th grade.
Right.
I was just curious, looking at numbers of athletes, female, male, that we have currently in the program, would we have enough to field both?
Yes,
Definitely.
yes. I believe we would. In fact, those numbers typically tend to be a little bit higher. We actually sometimes lose players as they go up into the varsity level for this sport, although the last few years we started to turn that trend around.
Does that mean JV for these programs go away, so it becomes?
I don't believe JV
JV.
goes away. I believe JV and varsity still stay at the high school. So that would be like 10th through 12th. I guess you could have a freshman that's good enough to play up. And then we would still have the teams for 7, 8, 9.
I think by
Yeah,
changing
so-
it from middle school to junior high, it includes the 9th grade
Yep.
in the
Right,
setting.
kind of means we won't have a JV team. Because we won't have enough players.
Well, if we don't have enough
to
players,
Mr.
we
Hassel's,
don't. Agreed.
we won't have enough.
You should have
minor
enough for these
classmen for
teams.
2 teams.
And then run a varsity.
Correct.
Yeah.
That's, so I believe this will like kind of replace the JV thought.
Unless our numbers continue to rapidly trend up.
Yeah.
Which,
Moving that.
quite honestly, the past couple of years, we've seen more students participating. I know in probably 2020, I don't think we even had enough, or maybe it was before that, I don't know that we had enough students to field the varsity team. And now we actually have bench players, so we're trending in the right direction there.
Yeah.
For boys. Girls' numbers have always been healthy at the varsity level.
So if we add 6th grade to the middle school, then we're looking at 6 to 9, possibly?
I don't think that's, no, I think it's 7,
It's just
8.
6, 7, 8.
7, 8, 9.
7, 8, 9.
Yeah.
And 6th grade would not participate in junior high.
Be like, 6th grade is traditionally intramurals.
Okay, that's fine.
So really what we're looking for here is support of this committee to kind of shuffle around the coaches where we would, like I said, sunset that co-ed position, and then have a dedicated boys junior high and girls junior high coach.
I think
League
as
is
long,
doing, yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think as long as you have the numbers to support it,
Yeah,
that's good.
go for it.
Thank you. Okay, next, I really just want to remind everybody that we're rapidly approaching our spring musical, which is Big Fish, the school edition. Tickets are available on the district website. So if you go here, you go to the high school. Actually, they just put it up on the banner. You can get it right there. Or you can go to the high school and then the activities section, and then that will take you into spring musical, like where all the different activities are listed. But they made it much easier by putting it right on the banner page. So we have March 13th at 7, March 14th at 7, March 15th at 7, and then the matinee on March 16th, which is a Sunday at 2 p.m. I would not wait long to get tickets if you want to go. I know that the available seating, especially if you want to go with a group, is rapidly filling up. Okay, up next, Mr. Guy shared with me today, I think many of you are aware that we had some girl wrestlers wrestling on the boys team this year. And I believe there was 4 of them, 5, and a number of them actually advanced into districts where they were then just wrestling girls. So on the boys team, they were wrestling boys from our competitors. There's been a sign-up sheet down at the high school to gauge interest for next school year. I was down there today, probably around 1 o'clock or so, and it looks like there's already 13 girls that have signed up that's saying that they would want to wrestle on a dedicated girls team for this upcoming school year. So this would actually then require us approving a girls wrestling team, and then we would have to look at staffing it as well as any equipment that they would need as well. This is not a sport that we have currently budgeted for. I am strongly urging the school board to support this and open up a new opportunity for some of our students that want to wrestle.
I think it's excellent.
Absolutely.
I see the market growing all over the valley, and I think it's awesome.
Yep.
If we, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to point out there's a fabulous article in Slate dedicated to it with a really great picture. So kudos to our high school newspaper.
I believe you all had a copy of the slate at the table, the most recent edition. But if you don't, I can get you one. And that really was a great article with an outstanding picture. Mrs. Husek, you were going to say?
If we add a girls wrestling team, do we have to do anything on the opposite side for any male sport of any sort? Or are we still okay with the numbers of?
Yeah, it would not be a Title IX issue
Okay.
because we already have an existing males team.
Right.
And now if it becomes a sanctioned sport, and I think many of you are aware throughout the Lehigh Valley, some high schools already have this as an approved varsity sport, whether it's Colonial League or the East Penn Conference or the other conferences.
Thank you.
Does the Colonial League, I don't think Colonial League has a girls wrestling division yet.
I think.
I know there's schools that have them, but.
I don't know the answer to that, but Mr. Geist did share with me that they are rapidly trending that direction, that they'll have enough teams
So they would have their own,
to make it a full season.
They would have their own schedule, is what
Yes.
I'm saying.
If I get any updated information on that from Mr. Geist, I will share it out with everyone. But I think what I'm hearing is we have the support of this committee that when we're ready to put positions and cost on a school board agenda, that this committee will support it.
Yes.
Okay, thank you for that. I'm excited to see this. I think, anytime we can give our students an opportunity to engage in something positive is a win. Okay, that other than public comment for this committee
I have it here.
is all that we have on the
Yeah.
agenda.
So, Ms. Bender, Ms. Schaefer, and Mr. Hassel.
Hi. So, I'm going to start. I'm Allison Schaefer. I'm sorry to meet many of you for the first time with a negative discussion, but I am here with three other parents, Katya Bender, Andy Hassel, and Brian Hyman. And we've gone through the chain of command, but unfortunately at the level we took it to, we're not able to hear an outcome. So we wanted to make sure we brought this concern to the board. As we know, when new coaches are brought or given a contract, it does come to your plate, and we just want to make sure that you are aware of our concerns that we brought to Mr. Geist and Mr. Thaler. My husband and I did have the opportunity to meet with him on February 10th, and that was after a call that I was able to make to Mr. Hauser, so thank you, Mr. Hauser, for talking with me. Before we sat down with Mr. Geist, we did actually get the support of 34 other parents that we have signatures for, based on our allegation of just absolute mistreatment of our youth at the middle school basketball level. My son personally, I believe, is being bullied. He's been threatened, he is screamed at, he is cursed at. He refused to go to the awards ceremony tonight because he did not want to see his coach, who is the hands of the aggressor. And we're new to this community. I mean, I did grow up here. Mr. Kern, hello. But we're back now after being gone for several years, and I didn't know this was going on, and I'm an educator of 15 years, and it would not be in my nature to not bring this to the attention, knowing that we have many kids who don't have the supportive parents like we have here, to be able to stand up and say, hey, this is wrong. Kids should not be treated this way. Everybody deserves a chance to be treated fairly and with kindness and respect and dignity. So with that being said, when we started talking to people, we got all of these stories that this has been happening for years and years at the hands of Mike Bauer. And I just had to say something. We do have a copy, Katja made a copy, if you would like to see it, but in it we do allege, we do talk about the screaming at children, the inappropriate language, rude comments, constant berating, belittling, bullying, and shaming of children, retaliating against children due to parental actions. In fact, Mike Bauer has mocked me and my husband to my son in front of his entire team. He's just very embarrassed and ashamed. Inappropriate behavior within the community and shameful representation as the Northern Lehigh coach. At a recent varsity game, he called a woman in the other stands fat and had to get escorted out of that game. Inappropriate behavior, lack of commitment to athlete development, and that's just the coaching side, which, you know, we are appreciative of volunteers, understanding that he is not a volunteer, he is in a paid position, but typically, you know, we are appreciative of all volunteers, but the fact that this goes to his coaching as well. And I say that my husband is active duty military. You know, military, they can be a little firm. And my kids, they have grown up overseas and had all military coaches who have been firm. But with that, they've also been fair and consistent and forgiving and all of the things that you need in a coach. And we're here just to say that that's not what's happening, and we've got stories from 34 other people that are saying the same thing. And that was us not going out searching for signatures, but people have heard, like, you're gonna step up, you're gonna say something, I wanna help, how can I help, what can I do? Multiple emails have also been sent to Mr. Geis and Mr. Failer with their specific stories, because we could only give hearsay of what they were telling us, and he wanted to hear it from them. So we have also informed them to take that action as well. Katya, anything else?
The email that I submitted, I also sent to all of the members of this board because I wanted you to be aware of what was going on. My son is also, he has decided not to attend the awards ceremony because he does not feel that there is a reason to celebrate this season, which, sorry, it hurts me. He's an 8th grade boy. He should be celebrating everything about his season with his team. And while he has not been a direct target of some of the verbal bullying that has gone on in the locker room, he has come home and he has told us about it. And he doesn't know what to do because he doesn't know how to defend his friends without fear of retaliation. And we've raised him to stand up for those who are being bullied. And now he's in a position where he doesn't know how to do this. So when we first said that we were going to join the Schaefers in this issue, he was afraid. He said, I don't want this to come back to me. Everyone's gonna know that I told. And that is not the Northern Lehigh that my children love and that I love. I do not want my child to be afraid to tell the truth. Over the weeks, he has changed his mind and he has said, you know, I can't keep quiet about this. I've seen my friends broken because of what he has said. My friends have stopped playing because of what he has said to them. So we are here as a voice for our son as well, because I don't feel that an 8th grade child should be the one that has to stand here and speak up. If he was a high school student who is close to adulthood, this would be a different situation. But this is not a point in his life that he is prepared to stand here in a room full of adults and defend his friends. But I want to say I'm very proud of him. I am proud of the fact that he never gave up through the last 2 seasons. He continued to set a positive example. He continued to be supportive of his teammates. And a lot of you know me, that I'm involved in a lot of things, and all of these kids are my kids. They're great kids, they're good children, and I've known them from the time they were in kindergarten, most of them. And I just can no longer sit back and allow this to happen.
So, as you see here, I've been a coach for the youth organization for 5 years now, working with Mr. Bauer, and at some point enough is enough. This has been going on for way too long on multiple different levels. If he treats me in a certain way, I'm an adult, I can handle that. But now, attacking specifically my son and other kids repeatedly over and over again, creating an environment that is not, as said, inclusive, motivating kids. We are a small school district. We need the numbers to grow our program. And having heard over and over again kids being told that you are no varsity material, you will not play, you guys suck, repeatedly. I just can't let this continue to happen. Conversations being talked to by Mike in the youth setting, talking about other kids and how terrible they are. They should find a different sport. And that also goes over not only from basketball, but also to soccer. His character shown over and over again towards adults, towards females specifically, towards kids, it is unacceptable. So that's why we're here today. Brandon, I don't know if you want to conclude that as well.
I tried to talk to Mike about our face-to-face man. You know, when you have problems, when you address that situation turned into a 45-minute yelling conversation. Him yelling at me, not me yelling at him, about how great his children are at basketball. However, that phone call wasn't about his kids in basketball. It was about my son and developing him, making him better at the game. But he could only talk about how he has to, as a responsibility, to make sure his son scores 40 points a game. And every time I spoke, he spoke over me. So I just put it on speakerphone and walked away and kind of did my thing. And went back to the phone and he was still talking. But I'm here today to support my friends and just kind of give my story too. I did send an email as well to Mr. Geis, and I signed the letter as well. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you all for sharing that. I don't want any of our student athletes to feel like that. We are aware of the allegations, and the allegations are being investigated. There is a lot, so administration is working through that. That's all I'm going to say to the school board, because if it rises to a personnel issue, you're going to have to be the hearing. So I'm going to ask that you do not comment on this to preserve the validity of that process. Thank you all.
Thank you. Anything else for the extra and co-curricular committee?
Yes, sir. Just a reminder to everybody, Wednesday night, coffee and conversation at the middle school. Mr. Williams will be buying the good stuff. Also, I am at 7:30.
Coffee, he meant coffee.
I have tried to call it beer and banter, and Dr. Wong will not let me.
Attendance just went up.
Also on Wednesday, weather permitting, 7:30, we want to run our next installment of our astronomy program. Weather looks like it's going to be a little bit funky, which would make the 4th consecutive time that we've been clouded out. But fingers are crossed, I'm going to hold to it. And if it is going to be clouded over, I'm going to still put something together on the big screen of stuff we've done kind of to date, just to kind of show what the equipment can do, maybe hype up the next one from there, and keep our fingers crossed that while I'm doing that, the sky's clear. So if you have nothing going on, 6 o'clock, coffee and convo, 7:30, astronomy. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Hauser.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, I'll call the committee meeting closed.
Anything else anybody wants to bring up? On behalf of the board, for the people that came, I just want to say thank you for standing up and doing what you did. Your children are heroes for doing that, and I appreciate it. Thank you very much. And like you said, we can't comment on it now, which you understand. But thank you for coming. We appreciate it. I'm sure everybody feels the same way. So. Okay, I think we're done here.
Thank you.